Today's Vault, my fellow gamers. Here is just going to be a quick update to the Yoda encounter, the encounter in Degobah model kit. Not as cool and articulated as I thought it was going to be, but here we're going to move into it. So the top, very explanatory. I left the giant snake off because you prime that separately and have it sitting right there. I was contemplating filling the hole and just leaving it as is, but you know, the model has it there. It's got all these snakes. It's like, why not use everything? In order to use everything, though, you're gonna have to make a base for it. I digress. That's for later on. Let's go here to this. This is a big time pain in the butt, but okay. So this part here isn't that bad of a deal. You have a little seam there, a little bit of green stuff, or liquid green stuff, whatnot. We'll fill that up. Around here, however, the inside of the lip here, it's like a huge void. So what I used is the Woodland Scenics. It's the sculpting foam. It's really super handy stuff. I'm always talking about it on the channel. So yeah, fill in that gap up there, and on the edge, where it meets, I put a little bit of liquid green stuff just to smooth it to where it's not a defined edge. However, back here, where the seam line gets me, this isn't so bad. You can't really tell it so very easily here. There you can tell it a bit more. Point at it with Luke's old bamboo stick, but right there, see that flat line almost? And this is the worst one yet. Yeah, that's really bad. This little flat line here. So that's where the seam runs, where the two pieces conjoin. I don't want to be able to see that. It's very pronounced when you click the model together and glue it all and whatnot. This is very, very pronounced. It's almost like a split mold. It's so bad. But this is the worst side here. It just takes several applications of like green stuff, whatever putty you want. It's just a pain in the butt. We'll get it done though. We'll take care of it. Here on my homemade airbrush block, I'm working on my pumpkin patch here. All I did was I just drilled, holes the same size as dowels into each pumpkin and primed them up. And then I have all the bits here for Yoda's hut, except for Luke, who needs more work on his seam lines. And that's basically what you do. You prime up to make sure that everything is good, and then you work on the seam lines accordingly. So the giant snake here is in gray, the little one in tan. Now that little one, he affixes right there. And then the big one, of course, on the hole there. I have 3 more here that aren't touched, but that's where the base comes in. And it's to clean it up too. Like, you've got this edge, but you don't really want that whole thing. I don't want it like that. I want a nice crisp edge, like you've taken out the diorama straight out of Degobah. And it'll give me a spot to put the snakes and a spot to put these crates. There's the 2 crates that are in black. I'm of course going to dry brush silver and do weathering and whatnot, since they were part of the wreckage in the swamp. R2, I just did his green stuff and priming today. Actually finished everything up, and he looks good. If you notice on the inside of his legs here, I filled it up. Okay, you'll notice more there. In these big squares, they were just very, very hollow. And what I did is I used more of that foam stuff, the sculpting foam from Woodland Scenics, and then over top of that, I put a layer of liquid green stuff, because once you sand the foam, or even if you don't touch the foam at all, it has this granularly texture to it. It doesn't lend to a smooth robot frame. So what I did is I just smoothed that over with the liquid green stuff, and it was a little triangle on each part of his foot here, and this big piece, and even the inside of his leg was hollow. So you just fill that in and smooth it off to make it like he has some body to him, on both sides, of course. Now, initially when I filmed the video on my unboxing, I thought that he had this clever little motion that was added to his body where he could go tippy-toe. That is not the case. That bar was barely enough to fit inside of his body, and the pegs on his legs were fairly long, and you need every bit of length on those pegs to put his legs on that little dowel rod that's on the inside. So it sucks he's static. So it means that a lot of kind of the weathering, well, I guess once you pick it up, you'll be able to see his whole body there. But, you know, I'll still weather him. You need to anyway. You can see him from a few different angles. But the seam lines, they're a little tricky when it gets to his, you can kind of see a little inconsistency there, which is terrible. I might sand that down. But it was a big, you know, seam line. He's a two-part dude as far as the main body. And so any time where there's an edge, that's still not picking up quite well. But yeah, I'll use maybe a razor saw and clean those edges up. But yeah, he's a very nice part of the kit. Sculpting on Luke's face is really nice. But I have all my bits and pieces cleaned up. And next, what we're gonna do, the very next step, I'm gonna take some measurements of this piece, make it a bit bigger, because I wanna put Luke's crates on the outside of the hut. And of course, some snakes as well. The snakes don't take a lot of space. But here, I have my artist square, or drafting square, whatever you want to call it, and just a normal pencil. And the important part of this is 3/4 inch MDF board. And I bought a sheet of this. It's super cheap at Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever you want to go. So, and I've already cut out a chunk of this for my pumpkins. So my pumpkin patch right there. It makes a nice base. If you guys want something bigger, if you wanted to put a lighting effect in the kit or whatnot, you can get a thicker piece of wood and, you know, router that on the inside, make yourself a little compartment. But here, I'm just gonna cut it, sand everything flat, you know, you can see how it fuzzes there on the edges. So you wanna knock that fuzz off, but then, you know, mount that on it to where it has a nice little black line all the way around the base and cleans it up. I could put moss and I could disrupt this line here. I mean, it's just a terribly straight line. And Yoda's hut's gonna have mud mounted up next to it. It's gonna have bushes and whatnot right next to it. So, of course, you know, I'll probably put like a snake crawling around back here, just doing its own thing, minding its own business, you know, and just put it around. Like this one, actually, I might curl on top of those boxes. You know, just like Luke hasn't been there for very long, but the snakes are everywhere. So yeah, I definitely might curl that on top of the boxes. And then the other one's super easy to place just wherever. But yeah, it's a place for the boxes, a place for the snakes, and for disrupting this line, actually. I probably won't prime this again. I've been priming it several times to get rid of this the seam here. So I'm gonna go back and mount this thing on the board after it's all cleaned up, and then I can start priming it and all that good stuff. So anyway, that's future plans. I'll see you guys in the future.